Hi, everybody. Today is March 24th, and we're back for a special episode with Victor Niederhoffer and Larry as our guest. And unfortunately, Larry doesn't have a camera at the moment, so we'll just have to contend with his voice. And I'm sure he will have a lot of fun and interesting stuff to say. So I guess let's start with Victor. And we haven't seen Victor in a while, and everybody wants to know, how are you doing, of course, and what do you think about this current market situation?
Well, we've been up 7 days in a row and about 11% continuously. We're still 3.5% from the all-time high. And there's a grandeur in the way the market goes up despite all the deception, despite all the bad news, despite the war, despite the rise in interest rates. And the bonds are down 9 points from a week and a half ago. Despite the jawboning of the Bullard and the other, despite everything, market keeps going up as it always does. This quote to me is the key. Thus, from the war of nature, from famine and death, the most exhausted objects which are capable of conceiving, namely the production of the higher markets, directly follows. There is grandeur in this view of life, with its several powers having been originally breathed into a few forms, and that while the planet has gone cycling on according to the fixed law of gravity, from so simple a beginning, which was only 7 days ago when everybody was enthused about the market going down 3 weeks in a row, 5 weeks in a row. From so simple a beginning, endless forms, most beautiful and most wonderful, have been and are being evolved. So I've been saying that the market has a force of destiny in it. It keeps going to one constructal number after another. Had one down day yesterday, back above it. And everything's good as far as the market goes. The closer we get to the all-time high, the more bullish it is. Larry, how are you?
I'm marvelous. Thank you, Vic. I'm getting a little bit older. You know, I'm so old now, I don't look both ways when I cross the street anymore, but I'm getting along. Things are good, actually. Like you, I was fortunate to get long these markets at the low here and continue to think that the purveyors of pessimism will be proven wrong one more time.
Larry, tell us a story.
Tell you a story. Well, you know, I had a thought today. People love to be scared. And that applies, and I'm going to prove that too. They love to be scared, and especially in market traders love to be scared, I guess. They like to get scared out of their positions. When you think about movies, the movies that make the most money are the ones where you get scared, where the heads come off the bodies and people throw up and somebody gets stabbed. People pay a lot of money to go get scared. And the movies that are really happy, make you feel good, they do okay, but they don't make as much money as where people get shot up and killed and you get scared. And I think that has some application to the market, that people just like to get scared. So they listen to all the Cassandras and all the bad news instead of focusing on the market. As you've taught me and really ingrained in me, the market tends to move higher. You know, I've been trading since 1962. I think I've seen maybe 10 bear markets in 60 years. Well, obviously the odds are not real good of having bear markets.
Larry, have you ever been scared in your life?
Oh, lots of times. But when I was young, I intentionally scared myself. I've had some fear in my life, of course, but I see that people like to be afraid. My son, as you know, is a psychiatrist, and he says that we all have a cognitive bearish bias, that we all like bad news. Because if somebody looks bad, then I feel a little bit better. I'm not quite as bad off as they are. And people like bad news. And I know people in our business, Vic, that have been perpetual bears forever because it sells subscriptions. They don't care if they're right or wrong. People just like to hear bearish stuff.
Have you ever been scared in your personal life?
Oh yeah, sure. I was scared when I was in Saudi Arabia, and they took us to jail there. I was pretty scared about that. Yeah.
Wow.
Tell us about that.
Well, we were searching for some archaeological objects in Saudi Arabia, and we were way out in the middle of the desert and got arrested. And it's interesting because what we found now is actually a tourist site. Now you can get into Saudi Arabia. You don't have to sneak in like we did. You can get visas to go there. And now tourists are going to what we found. But back then, if nobody knew what this object was, which we think is maybe where Mount Sinai was. That's the thesis, at least. And yeah, that was a little scary.
Has anyone ever pointed a gun at you?
Oh yeah, of course.
When?
Of course, it's like an inevitability if you live long enough.
The first time that I grew up with guns, so yeah, kids would point guns, but it was play. But I was living in Beirut when the war broke out in 1973. Shearson American Express wanted to open up a new office, and I went over there to teach people how to trade. I was the attractor, and the war broke out. I had been lecturing one night, and I saw these things shooting up in the air, and I said to my interpreter, he'll be interpreted to French and Arabic, what's going on out there? And he said, oh, those are rocket fires. The war has broken out. And so everybody rushed out of the building, and as we went down the street, there were kids with guns, and that was the scariest thing, because a kid doesn't really appreciate death, I don't think, and what a gun can do. And when kids are pointing guns at me, that was an adult maybe I can deal with, but kids, that was pretty spooky for me.
My friend Bill McCarthy, who had the distinction of making more arrests in the New York Police Department than anyone in history, and who was the head of the bomb detail, a student of my father's. He always said that he hated to make an arrest of a kid because the kids don't know the drill and they could get very wild. So he likes to arrest seasoned criminals rather than amateurs.
Yeah, you can deal. Hopefully, you can deal with an adult, but a kid, I mean, they don't understand consequences, and they probably don't understand the safety of a gun either. So, and these were kids in Beirut when the war broke out. These weren't pistols; these were rifles and like the Uzi automatic submachine guns. I don't know where these kids got them. And kids, I don't mean like 6-year-old kids. These are kids from maybe 12 to 16.
What do you think of the market right now?
Oh my gosh, Vic. We're in a bull market to begin with, but the real big clicker came in this week in my work. I did a study in 2020 when we had the pandemic crash, and fortunately our indicators got us along right at the bottom. But as we rallied back, people said, "Oh, we're going to test the lows. We haven't seen the lows yet." Again, the pessimist came out of the woodwork. So I did a study going back to 1914. And whenever we've had a bear market with at least 2 legs to the downside, a big sell-off in the market, we have never rallied back 50% without the end of the bear market. In other words, once you've had a big slam in the market, if you rally back 50% and can hold that for even a day or two, you're not going to retest the low. You're out, you're game on again. You're back again. And we've done that. So to me, this is confirmation of the bullishness that I've been expressing. That explains today's action to me. Like, oh yeah, 50% rule. Here we go. Happy days are here again. Vic and Larry are bullish again.
How does the political situation look to you?
The interesting thing to me is people think we're in a recession, or we may be in a recession. So big names, big names in our industry are saying, oh, the recession. But when I see as many help wanted signs as I do Biden gaffes, I think there's no recession. That there's a lot of people trying to get hired. So the bond market and the yield curve and all that may mean something in terms of the markets, but in terms of a recession, I don't see that. And to me, the only times I want to get bearish is when we are in a recession. Stocks really get hammered when we're in a recession. I don't know of any other indicators that call market tops at work. They call tops all the time, and then we never top. Recessions are huge, and if there's no recession in sight, game on. You buy dips.
What's Mr. Vance been saying lately?
Ralph Vince.
Yeah.
Ralph moved to France recently. I haven't talked to him for a couple of weeks. He tends to be bearish. And, I try to argue with Ralph, try to inoculate him with a little Niederhofferism, and he still likes to be bearish. I don't know if he's turned bullish yet or not. But again, and this is something that I've noticed. I noticed myself when I was younger. Once you get bearish, it's really hard to stop being bearish. Once you're wrong, you hate to admit it. So you continue plundering ahead like a blundering idiot, which I did. And I think Ralph may have some of that. He's got to prove his bearishness. And I just look at the markets, and I know the long-term trend is up as long as you upgrade your portfolio. And you have to be with that.
Larry, you've had a lot of adventures in your life. Tell us about some exciting ones that you've had.
It would depend on how you measure excitement. And you might be able to appreciate this. I remember a massive margin call one time when I lost a huge amount of money in the market. That was very exciting. It was not a positive excitement, but it was very exciting in terms of the emotions of the day. And I think traders get the emotions of the day confused. They're just, Dostoevsky, the Russian poet, wrote novels to pay off gambling debts. And he said the two greatest thrills in life are making money and losing money. And I think people get confused with that it can be thrilling to lose money. And that rewards or incentivize the idea of maybe losing money. You have to be very careful about that. On the upside, oh my gosh, there's been so many marvelous experiences in my life, Vic. I don't think I could even focus on what's been the most exhilarating. So many, we've both been so blessed to have such great people in our lives. Things we've done in the markets, boy.
Do you find that listening to music helps you during the day?
Yeah, I do. I like music, and I grew up in Montana, so to me, there's only two types of music: country and Western. And I like cowboy music because it has a message, and it's usually a pretty strong message about bottom line cowboy up. Deal with what's in front of you. Cowboys got a simple solution to everything. Don't try to overcomplicate things. So
have you seen the dog movie?
I haven't seen that. Here in the Virgin Islands, we hardly ever get movies. So I don't even know if it's shown here. Our movie selection is not the best, but you said you just thought it was a great movie, right, Vic? Tell me
No, I
about it.
thought it was a terrible movie.
Oh, you did? Oh, I thought you liked it.
No, it shows cowboys in a very homoerotic and non-horse-like and and mainly they don't have vitality and they're vengeful, they're mean-spirited.
Oh, that's not, I mean, you might get a drunk cowboy that's mean-spirited, but cowboys are happy. You know, they live out in the open and they're, no, cowboys, I know
Yelena, have
cowboys.
you seen it? Power of the Dog?
No, I don't watch too many movies, especially these days, because they're too woke for me, basically. They're not realistic, and everything is in a woke, through the woke lens and prism, and we have to have the correct ratio of correct actors.
I've been watching a lot of Sondheim interviews, and he really favors certain composers from the 1930s. I posted some of them on my site today. They're they're all from Germany, and there's some very good movies and very good music in the 1930s from Frank Saza. I would recommend that. It's funny, Sondheim wrote his music in puzzles. He had algorithms going on in the bass where he'd repeat the bass over and over again. And while he did that, there'd be some interesting melody in the treble. But it's like the market, the repetition of the bass is like the stock market. I like to listen to his music. He was a mathematician. His favorite composer is Frank Waxman. He also liked Shostakovich and Brahms, mainly because they wrote in algorithms.
Vic, are there trading ranges in music like we have in the stock market?
Well, for each composer, it's different. But one of the things that I found when I used to listen to the radio was that at the conclusion of any piece, the market would tend to go to a new high. And I found that the reason was that all the radio stations ended on the hour so they could have their news. And so the music would reach its climax right at the hour. And the hours are like constructal numbers where the market tends to go up, you know. I like to assume that every half hour the market will be different. And
there is a structure I've noticed in the market that's absolute structure to it. And it's kind of fit your hour thesis. The structure is that the first couple hours in the day are very volatile, a lot of volatility, range expansion. Then we go into a humdrum, and then we pick up in the afternoon again. And you look at it, volume every single day. High volume early in the morning, low volume midday, high volume late in the day. It's just like rush hour traffic. Everybody goes out there in the morning, the roads are better in the afternoon. Then at the end, people go home and they see a rush in volume or people on the road. Both ways, there's a definitely U-shaped to the volatility and the volume on a daily basis.
I find the nighttime music of the market is very hard. I used to stay up 24 hours for 3-4 days in a row. But in general, whatever the market's doing at 3 a.m., it will go back and do the opposite the rest of the day. So that, of course, things like that have to be tested. but the 4 a.m., talking Eastern time, 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. is very key, because that's when Germany sets their prices, and usually they're wrong. So I used to like to watch them, but nowadays, since you have to be up 20, you never want to be asleep. There's some famous trend followers who who lost all their money and were asleep and were smoking during the market decline. If I
Yeah, I
go,
don't, I've stayed up all night, those all night sessions, but they get pretty hard. I try to expand my time frame of my trades a little bit past that.
how's your
But
wife doing? How's your wife doing?
oh, thank you for asking about Louise. She's doing great. She's trading and busy, and you know, she's an investment club. I got to tell you this, Vic. There's a bunch of ladies down here in the Virgin Islands. They all tend to be older ladies, 70 and older, 80s and 90s, and these women have knocked it out of the park. Way better than any mutual fund performance. And I'm thinking about why, and I think I figured it out. They're hip, they see what's going on, and they pay attention to stuff. So they got Roku early, Moderna early, et cetera. But they only meet a couple of times a year. So they're not in and out. And I think that's one reason they're successful, because they're not quibbling about, oh, it was up today, it's down today, what do we do today? They only meet a couple of times a year. I think there's some wisdom in what these women are doing.
How did you teach your kids how to trade?
I've only worked with 2 of them because the others really don't have any interest in it. And for whatever reason, they have other passions. My youngest daughter I've been working with for a while now, and she realizes that you can trade a mechanical strategy and has just traded a mechanical strategy. I try to teach her the nuances of what's in the strategy, what the mechanisms are. And I think she's starting to understand them. But none of my children really have this compulsion that I do to just look at charts. You know,
Michelle Williams was once won a trading contest. Should she do that on her own?
yeah, she did. She was filming Dawson Creek at the time, and I
You as
was
well?
home in it was filmed in North Carolina, Wilmington, and I was homeschooling her because she was too young to be without a homeschooler, so we homeschooled her. And which a little off the point, but you'll appreciate this. I asked a friend of mine, well, how do you really homeschool somebody? He said, Larry, he was been a principal, career teacher and principal. He said, there are 5 basic subjects: history, math, health, geography, and I forget what the other one was. He said, if you teach your child's an actress or wants to be an actress, teach her the history of the theater, she'll love history. Teach her the geography of where movies are done, she'll love geography. Math, it's only percentage. She doesn't need trigonometry, because just what percentage of the age is going to take. That's all the math she needs. And if you teach in that respect, kids will really get educated. You figure out what their interest is. If their interest is aviation, you teach the history of aviation, the mathematics of flying, and they'll get it. And boy, that was really an insightful comment from a professional teacher who I thought would say, well, you know, you shouldn't homeschool, because he was a public school teacher.
Did it work with Michelle?
Oh yeah, I think so. She's a real bookaholic. She's become a great collector of books and an appreciator of books.
Does she still trade?
No, Vic, look at the life these actors and actresses live. They get picked up in limousines, everything by weights on them. Everybody thinks they're big, hot people. They have, you know, they have admirers. Like, come on, what we do is hard work, Vic. We're putting it on the line every day. And no, we should have become actors, Vic. We would have had an easier life.
How is your sports doing lately?
Oh, good. I'm getting in shape for the Montana Big Sky State Games, and I've been trying to set the state record in a high jump. And at 80 years of age, the good news is it's not real high, but the bad news, it still seems pretty high to me. So I've been training and trying to get in shape.
You still running marathons?
No more marathons, Vic. I gave up marathons. I do 5Ks and shorter distances and compete in my age group. And usually I can win my age group because nobody else shows up. If another guy shows up, it's going to be real competitive.
How's your health these days?
I think it's really good, Vic. You know, I've really monitored my health and done a lot of off the wall things to stay healthy. And I think on tests that I've taken, I'm way ahead of the curve, which is good because then I can trade longer.
Do you find, do you wish to be trading on your deathbed?
Vic, that's the real problem I have in my life right now. I thought I could retire at 80, and I'm finding, well, what do I do? Go feed pigeons in the park? You know, that can feed enough pigeons after a while. I go, well, yeah, but the markets are moving today. And it's really hard to extract myself from this business because I don't know what the heck else to do. Go fishing in Montana, go for a run this morning, whatever. But I don't know what else to do with my life. I have no life outside of the markets, I guess. Maybe you can relate. Tell me, how do you approach that, Vic?
I intend to be trading until the end.
Yeah.
A few times I've had operations and I've looked at the monitors showing my respiration and heart. I always get nervous because I think that they're showing the market performance rather than
Better your body's performance.
health performance.
Victor, how's your daughter doing? She was trading as well. So is she still trading?
Mm-hmm. She's in crypto. She's doing very well. So is my son. Is an expert on crypto.
Right.
He interned with Roy, and he's handling some money for us. And he every day he's transferring behind getting 120% return, and as the various cryptos he's in start decreasing by 5% a day. So he's very, very active. He's in DeFi.
Well, he's found his passion, it sounds like, Vic. That's great.
He's going to be very successful in life in terms of trading. He's also he's running a lot. He's actually the best I ever did in running was 7.5 minutes a mile. He's already broken the 5-minute barrier.
Whoa, that's very good.
Yeah, he hopes to run on 4:20, which is what you need. You have to be a 4:10 to get into Harvard these days. How young is your youngest?
My youngest is Paige. She's 34 years old. She's living in Austin, Texas. I went to see her a while ago and visit her 2 children. And I said, she's on Zoom like everybody is all time working. I said, do you ever go into the office? She said, Dad, the office is in Los Angeles. I said, what? She said, yeah. I said, the 70% of the people that work for this company work on Zoom. I was just, Vic, this is a whole new world we live in. This is not the world you and I grew up in.
Where do you think we're going in terms of the elections?
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of Republicans get elected, Vic, or a lot of Democrats not get elected. Maybe that's a better way of looking at it. But I think that you're going to see a substantial change, that the Democratic majority is probably going to be gone. maybe influence stock prices.
Which way?
Well, I
I
would think
watch
that
it very closely. I watch the odds on Lot and Southall, their presidential odds, and I find that whenever Biden picks up, it's actually very bullish. I think the big companies are going to be happier if they can continue to.
I know one thing, right after the election every year is a great time to buy stocks. It doesn't matter what dirty dog we elect, but it's like there's a lot of nervousness, and then, okay, we elected them, and then boom, the market has a nice explosive rally starting right after election day, sometimes starting a day before election day, but there's a nice consistent pattern in the market there. I think right now we're going to rally until probably June, middle of June. We'll have a little bit of a pullback and then go off again, but
How do you disseminate your views? How many followers do you have? How many people are you teaching?
Vic, I'm trying to retire. We don't have a newsletter anymore. I do some stuff for stockcharts.com, but we've really tried to say nothing. When I'm on Jim Cramer's Mad Money stuff, I don't even show my email, my website address, because I've been trying to retire, and somebody said, well, you should retire from retiring. Maybe be like Vic. But
Do you find that Jim Cramer gives you a fair shake?
Oh my gosh. I've never talked to Jim. What is the most impressive to me is I can shoot him an email. But to me, is the market can be somewhat complex, this, and that, right? He instantly gets it. This guy is the quickest study I have ever seen. It is absolutely incredible how he said, this is what you mean. Yep, he's got it. I couldn't believe it. Another friend of mine, Tom DeMark, has done stuff with him as well. And Tom's stuff is very complex. And Tom says, he gets this stuff. But, like you and like a lot of us, this is what we live and breathe. So I guess we get it quicker than other people. But this guy is one fast study, and he's been very kind to me. I would not want his job having to be on point on every stock and every market, 24 hours a day. Oh my gosh, this is wow. I don't know what he's drinking, but I wish I had some of it.
Yelena, what's your thinking about the markets?
Well, let me instead ask you, because the viewers, our listeners, are going to kill me if I don't. What's your view on the bonds market? Because given the inflation and the Fed funds raising rates, we haven't talked about the bonds, and now the interest rates are at the local, at least, high. So what to expect?
Expect it to rise. Expect the prices to rise. It's tremendous bearishness. Yes. Yesterday we were at like maybe a 1.5 year low. It went like through a pudding. It went up 2 points. Pretended to go down today. Should have a great week, and of course that will be very bullish for stocks on it. When I find that on a daily basis you can predict stocks by the extent of the bond move as of 9 o'clock. If bonds are way down, then we're going to have a good stock market day, and vice versa. Of course, one should never be short stocks, but that's a good tell. Larry, what are your favorite tells?
Seeing markets sell off and not be able to make new lows. There's a lot of the FANG stocks and some others that didn't make a new low when the market did. So it tells me those stocks are under strong hands. Since I don't focus that much on intraday trading, I don't day trade.
You don't day trade? You don't try to take
No.
advantage of the lows?
No, and I'll tell you why. I think the mathematics are against you. because the basis of all profits is trend. If you don't have a trend, you're not going to make any money. So trend, as I understand, trend is a function of time. The more time in a trade, the more trend move I can get. And I want to capture trend moves. If I can catch a big trend move, I can bet small and catch a big move.
What made you bullish 7 days ago? How did you stay,
couple of things.
Bearish until then?
Cycles. I happen to think cycles can be very helpful. And my cycle forecast work was calling for a low, which was published in December, about March 15th, March 16th, something like that. So that was part of it. Excuse me. Then as we got there, so just, that doesn't guarantee that it's going to happen. As you get there, the way the market started to trade, and you see big rundowns and buying came in. There was a divergence between the way I measure accumulation in the market. Accumulation was coming into the market, but it looked weak. There were actually some buyers that came into the market, and that's how markets usually buy.
You said one thing that is very resonant. You said March 15th. The 15th is always a good day for the market to.
Well, we know the 11th trading day is the day that stocks usually rally the most. The S&Ps, that's been the strong, which comes in, that's trading day, not calendar day, that comes in around the 15th.
It's also the day that most people get paid.
Yep, and funds start to put money in. They get new funds to come in and put in the market. So there's been, when we grew up there, because the big day was the first 2 days of the month were supposed to be bullish. There a little bit. It depends on which month, but certainly right around the middle of the month, we've seen money consistently come into the market.
Larry, are we going to see 5,000 constructional number this year? What do you think?
I have no idea. Simply because I don't, unlike a lot of people, I can't make price projections that are any good. I can tell you the time to buy and the time to sell, but the number, how high or how low it will go, man, you might as well flip a coin. It's just something I've never mastered. Other people have, and so I will acknowledge
I haven't
them.
mastered it, but we're still, even after a 10% rally, we're still 200 points away from 4% from the all-time high. And I think we're going to, the statistics show that when there's been a long time since an all-time high, and we've about spent more time from an all-time high as ever, was something like 50 days from an all-time high. Maybe taken that long and twice in the last 20 years. So I think the Professor Bijan is going to have his day. I find that it's helpful to assume that the professor will, whenever the market gets close to a Constructal level, it tends to achieve it. I find that.
Yeah, I would think we make new highs this year. I think later on this year, there's going to be an incredible buying opportunity. I think we'll have a nice rally out of here, make new highs, bounce around for a while, and then later on this year, oh, Katie, bar the door. We're going to have a nice up move.
Later on, like second half of the year?
Yeah, late September.
Maybe if the D's win the election, there'll be some more regulatory capture. All the big firms will be very happy because they can get.
That could be, or maybe the R's will win and everybody will say, yeah, we have an unregulated economy and we'll go make money again. I don't know, but I know this is that when I first started trading in 1962, the market put in a really strong low. And then by 1966, I was trading and was active in the market. And then in 1970, the market put in another strong low. That's 4 years from 1970 going back to 66, going back to 1962. You go back from 1962, 4 years, you get 1958. And if you come forward from 1970 every 4 years, you're going to end up with years like 2002, a great time to buy stocks, or 2012, or 2022. I think it's going to be really, this is going to be, it's a bullish year. All these people that are telling you get out of stocks now, I think they're just going to be proven so wrong, Vic.
Well, one thing we also haven't spoken about is the inflation that on everybody's mind. Could that affect statistically the market performance going forward, or is this a temporary phenomenon, or it doesn't matter?
None of these things matter. As I read, the market has a force, and it takes into account everything that's happened, and of course it tries to deceive you on the day of the absolute low, when the S&P was 4,100. At 4 a.m. the market was down about 3%. Then it ended. That's Monday, March 15th. So the market has to force you out of positions, has to force you to be over margined. So that's another force that's always happening. Whatever looks like it's going to happen, the opposite happens, especially overnight. Also, a very good time to reverse stocks is between 9:30 and 10. There's always a nice, or I'd say half the time the market goes down 10 points in a 5-minute period from 9:30 to 10. That's always a good time for everybody to be scared out of their position.
I think Vic's point is really significant for people to realize there is some heartbeat to this thing called the market, and it has a driving force. To me, that can be measured with cycles. Other people will measure in other ways, but clearly there are times, I can tell you now, the market's going to rally in the future. And I've been very successful real time doing that. So this is an academic issue. And
Larry,
then people will say the news was there. Well, whatever the news was the news. But there's some life beat to this thing, I think, Vic. You're right.
Larry, one of my favorite times was the time we both spoke together in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
You've been to Japan and China how many times?
Oh gosh, couldn't count them. Lots.
How does that work out for you? Why do you go there so often?
Well, I haven't gone for a while because nobody's with Zoom. I went there because I wanted to find out about China. I wanted to see what was happening, the revolution. When I first went there in 1979 or 1980, it was under Mao, of course, and the country was miserable. You couldn't get fresh food. It was just nothing worked.
Do you still have a lot of friends in?
I do, yeah, I do. And Japan, of course, I've always had an interest in Asia. China is so interesting because two of my friends there, when they were young men, got a letter from Mao that said, you must go work, you must go work in a coal mine. And it was such a skinny little kid, they put him in a picture of like, I'd be Life magazine, said, even skinny kids can mine coal for Mao. That's what you had to do. You didn't have any choice. That's communism. He had to go mine coal. He figured out how to get out of it. He was smart enough to figure out how to get out of the mine and do something else. But I mean, what a shock to think that people lived under that oppression.
Do you still get communications from the East?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I do.
Every day? Every day?
No, not every day. No, Vic, I've tried to, like I said, I try to retire and do less and less. But I still have still have contacts there. And you know, I've had some good calls in the Chinese market. The China market is very energy responsive. So I've still done some work for people there.
So what do you think about China, if you have any opinion on the situation in Taiwan? And is China really turning more democratic, less, or is China just its own separate system that cannot be measured in our Western values, so to speak?
You know, I really don't know. I'm not smart enough to know. It's outside my domain. My domain is figuring out what the market's going to do, and that's, to me, is like maybe subterfuge. It's stuff that you know. It's why I don't have a television set. It's all this stuff I don't want to get in my mind. I have to really focus on my ability to figure out the market's going to go up or down, and I get all these other things in there, and then I get confused. And
You
get
used to-
confused easily.
You used to be very knowledgeable about politics. In fact, you almost won the Montana senator race. What's your projection as to what's going to happen in the Ukraine?
Gosh, I don't know. But I think this is the most interesting thing going on in America right now. And I still have been involved in some campaigns here. And it's that we are a three-party system now. We're not a two-party system. And I'll explain that. You have Republicans and Democrats, but they cannot get elected without the undecideds, the pollsters call them, or the independents, which is what I think they are. And the independents are the controlling factor to get elected. Republicans are not enough. Democrats are not enough. You're going to get elected. You're going to win if you can get a large percentage of the independent or undecided vote. And a lot of politicians don't get that. So they're still yada Republicanism or Democrat ideas, not realizing there's this third party, and without them, you are not going to get elected.
So do you think Trump is going to run and tap into that third party and win?
Vic would know better than I have no idea. I hope he doesn't.
Hope he what?
I hope he doesn't. I like a lot of things that he did, but I think he's such an abrasive personality that he's just too divisive. And he's just not presidential enough for my cup of tea. I'm not talking about his goals and his beliefs, but just that he's just too divisive in that position of power.
Right now, he's, according to the odds, he has a 30% probability of being the president. And Biden has a 15% probability. So he's about twice as likely. And Biden is neck and neck with DeSantis. Is DeSantis doing a good job in your state, Yelena?
DeSantis is an amazing governor, and I believe he should stay this way. I don't like his foreign policy. I like his local policy. I don't think DeSantis is going to win if he runs, and I don't think he's going to run if Trump runs. DeSantis is not going to compete with Trump, and even if he does, he's going to lose the primaries. So perhaps it's not his time, plus his wife is sick. I don't really think DeSantis is running for president yet, at least.
That's an interesting insight. I appreciate that. I was not aware of that. I think you're going to see Hillary running, or Michelle Obama.
In a country of so many people and so many talented people, we're really scraping the bottom of a barrel.
Yeah, it's always, but that's politics. We have a choice of tweedledee or tweedledum.
Right.
Well, as Jefferson pointed out, it's not that these people are bad before they get into politics, it's that politics makes them bad. Because the essence of politics is buying votes by taking from the few and giving the many. And
well, and you have people every single day, somebody's coming into a congressman or a senator's office asking for something. Please give me this, give me this. That's always give me this. A friend of mine's a senator. When I ran for the Senate, he was my driver. He was in college, and now he's Montana's great senator. And I went to see him, Steve Daines, and I said, how do you like the job? He said, you know, Steve, Larry said, I come from the business world. And the business world, I had objectives and goals I had to maintain to keep my job and lead the company. He said, there's only one measurement here as a U.S. Senate, and that's how much money did you raise. There's no job performance rating. He said, it's incredible. I want a job performance rating. There isn't any, other than getting reelected, of course, but you know, this is just not like business. And I think that was Donald Trump's problem. He came with a business idea background, bumped into everybody with a New Yorker attitude. And no, this is politics, Donald. This is, you don't play this game the same way. You tried, that worked. There's a lot more of them than there were of you. And he just didn't have that professional, didn't understand the game. He was in the wrong ballpark.
But to give him credit for all his abrasiveness and all of his big mouth, so to speak, he hasn't gotten us into any conflicts worldwide. It's been rather peaceful, pretty much the only peaceful time in American recent history when we haven't attacked any new foreign countries, versus every other president managed to get us into a war. So,
absolutely. The things that he did, you're absolutely spot on. Absolutely. The economy, the war, everything, right? But he's, you know, he's just a divisive figure. And that would be nice so that we don't have such divisiveness, that there be somebody else who can do the same thing. Maybe somebody else isn't there to carry the same torch. I wish there was.
Well, remember that as the market looks worse, the better it is. And if the D's make a comeback, I think it will be very bullish for stocks. And I watch it on a day-to-day basis. I see
It's very
all
interesting.
all
One thing
the
I know from
progressive
Ralph
things
Vince's
that are-
work, years ago, Ralph told me, and his research showed, that the most influential thing on stock market performance, the best predictor, is the deficit. The larger the deficit, the more stocks rally. That's the number one economic indicator up to that point. And that in the face of a conservative fiscal Republican like I was back then, like that flies in the face of everything. But the reality is, in the 25 years of living with that, and you've seen that as well, Vic, yeah, deficits are bullish. Why? Simple. There's a lot of money in circulation. People have jobs, they go out and buy stuff, corporations make money. Deficits are bullish, they're not bearish, as the hard school, money school people will tell you.
Elena, I'd like to thank you for arranging this tripartite interview between Larry, me, and yourself. Thank you very much.
And what a pleasure it is to me to be with you, with the
your-
two of you. Vic, I mean, what an honor to be with you. I'm so glad that you're a friend.
Oh,
And I'm glad you're
the
doing
honor
better
is
too.
mine. Hey, thanks, Elena. Thanks, Larry. I appreciate you.
Oh, Vic, thank you very much. It was a
I-
real honor to be here. Thank you guys very much.